Hello, and welcome to Very Kimberly, the healed side of codependency. Have you ever heard of the phrase attachment theory? Well, in the world of psychology, this phrase attachment theory came about in the 1950s and 60s to explain how we as human beings form emotional bonds with other people and how we relate to each other. This theory states that we begin this process in infancy with our parents or caregivers. And then this creates the foundation of how we go about bonding or attaching to people in future relationships. I had briefly heard about this theory in the past, but it hasn't been until very recently that this topic has come up repeatedly on my social media feeds. And from what I have researched so far, attachment theory goes straight to the heart of codependency. The Holy Spirit has also started giving me some revelations about it. So, if you haven't heard of attachment theory before, or maybe a little bit, but don't really know what it's all about, please stay tuned because I want to start unpacking this from a spiritual perspective in the next couple of videos. We already know that codependency derives from unmet needs as a child and growing up in a dysfunctional and or abusive environment. But attachment theory goes deeper. It connects the dots from your attachment to your parents or caregivers to how you attempt to bond with other people in your relationships. So, today I want to share with you what I have learned so far, what the difference is between secure and insecure attachment, how insecure attachment manifests in codependent relationships, and why understanding your insecure attachment style can be a complete game changer in your healing journey. So, secure attachment is when a child from infancy into childhood is given consistent care and nurturing from their parent or caregiver. The baby or the child trusts that the parent or caregiver is going to provide whatever they need, physically and emotionally, and that in every way they are safe and secure. Hence the word secure attachment. When a child has that foundation and example of stability, safety, and security from their parents or caregivers, then that child can go on to develop healthy relationships with other people later in life. However, when the needs of a child are not consistently and or adequately met, or if they feel that they are being rejected and or ignored, or all of the above, then that child develops a very insecure way of bonding or attaching to others in their relationships. Hence the word insecure attachment. The word insecure is described in the dictionary as not firmly fixed, liable to give way or break. It can also be described as not confident or assured, uncertain, and anxious. Now, this theory categorizes 3 insecure ways that a person generally bonds or attaches with others: anxiously, avoidantly, and disorganized, which is a combination of the first 2. Anxious attachment generally describes, pretty much to the letter, a codependent's behavior patterns. And disorganized attachment, because it is a combination of both avoidant and anxious, it can also describe a codependent's behavior patterns. So in this video, I'll be focusing on anxious attachment and disorganized attachment. In anxious attachment, which is classic codependent attachment, children are raised in environments where caregivers were either unpredictable or inconsistent in their responsiveness to the child's needs, and or were simply unavailable emotionally. This causes the child to internalize a subconscious fear of abandonment and rejection. In other words, the child believes subconsciously, and albeit falsely, that it is their fault that needs were not met. So the child's attachment system kind of goes on overdrive, where they attempt to earn or win that love, acceptance, validation, and approval. It is the only way that they know how to maintain that attachment to the parents or caregivers. So, in adult relationships, someone with anxious attachment style has this subconscious fear of rejection and abandonment, coupled with an inability to see themselves outside of how other people see them. Therefore, people with this attachment style have an even bigger fear of being alone, and or are even incapable of being alone. This is why you'll see a codependent jump from one romantic relationship to the next in a very short period of time. Because intentional singleness to a codependent It's just inconceivable. When in relationships, people who have anxious attachment have a perceived need for constant reassurance and attention so that they can feel good enough. It solidifies that false belief of the inner child that if someone fails to respond to their needs, it's somehow their own fault, that it means they weren't good enough to have their needs met. This can lead to clinginess and preoccupation or obsession with their relationships. The second and most complicated form of insecure attachment associated with codependency is disorganized attachment. See, if a parent or caregiver is not only highly inconsistent, but also unpredictable in their behavior, as one would see in an abusive household, then the child not only sees the parent as their source of safety, but also their source of fear. The child doesn't know what to expect, nor does he or she know if or when their needs will be met at all. Sometimes the child's emotional needs are met, either by the non abusive parent or when the abusive parent is in a good mood. But because of the combination of inconsistency and fear, the child loses trust in the caregivers, learning to rely only on themselves. However, because there are those good days, this child will still attempt to earn or win that love and connection. Why? Well, quite frankly, because they want more good days. They also internalize that it's their fault. And when those bad days happen, the only way to survive emotionally is to withdraw completely, becoming self reliant and overly independent, just like the avoidant. And so, people with disorganized attachment avoid at all costs any kind of real and genuine bonding or emotional intimacy to protect themselves. Again, similar to the avoidant attachment style. But at the same time, they crave and hunger for it, similar to anxious attachment. In adult relationships, you'll see that push pull play out. They want to love people and be loved by people. They want that closeness and intimacy. But at the same time, they are terrified of it because they have learned through childhood experience that it only leads to heartbreak. Trust is the key word here with disorganized attachment. They don't really trust anyone, but they don't really trust themselves either. And here's the danger in that. A good motto phrase for this individual would be, "It is what it is," meaning that they already expect to be disappointed, to be let down, and to be hurt. But they accept it not in terms of everybody's human and make mistakes sometimes. But these individuals have such low self esteem that the thought of a person loving them in a healthy way is what's inconceivable. The danger is in accepting red flags as normal and not having the self-esteem and self-respect to set and enforce healthy boundaries. It turns into a form of self-sabotage because these individuals are drawn to the same types of people over and over again, thinking that they can earn or win that love. But when they can't, it is what it is. They shut down to survive and become completely self reliant, taking complete care of themselves and everyone else around them. Why is understanding your attachment style so important to healing? Well, number one, you understand yourself better, which leads to self acceptance and growth. Number two, you can compare your insecure or unhealthy attachment to secure or healthy attachment, which helps you visualize the goal for current and future relationships. But most importantly, number three, when we focus on having that secure relationship with God by His grace, then we are better equipped to establish secure attachment in our relationships with the people in our lives. Here is the first and most important revelation that the Lord gave me about this topic of attachment theory. If you think about it, how we connect and attach to people in our relationships is kind of the same way that we connect and attach to God. If you have the anxious attachment style, then you might have this underlying subconscious fear that God will reject or abandon you if you're not perfect. You might subconsciously believe that you have to earn His love. If you have the disorganized attachment style, then you might subconsciously struggle to trust God's promises for you in His Word. You might struggle to allow God to be in control of your life and trust that He will work all things for your good. And you might struggle to have that close and personal relationship with God, receiving that agape love that Abba Father wants to lavish on you. In my next video, I want to unpack the anxious attachment style and how you can start reconnecting or reattaching to God from a place of security and peace. And until then, this is Very Kimberly, encouraging you to keep striving to be on the healed side of codependency.